I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
We are VIMTV, Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. Tom, we're back.
I know, it feels good, man.
Yep, 2014. We're here. We're ready to review some
Yes.
albums from 2014. Now, it's mid-March right now. March Madness is in full effect. We're watching a lot of basketball, listening to a lot of music. We've actually been listening to music for the past, 3 months. There's been some albums that have come out, but Tom and I, due to some existential life crises that we're going through. I don't know if they're crises, but more like opportunities, right?
Yes. Big changes.
Tom, you have a house, and I have a baby, and I'm on 5 hours of sleep. So let's do this!
Yeah.
Let's review some albums.
So that being said also, I want to get out there that our review process is much more intensive because we've already missed a good portion of the year. We still want to be able to review as many albums as we can, but we want to make sure that we're putting the time into albums that we really feel is worth it to us to review and also worth it to you guys for us to review for you. So you might find that at the beginning part of the year here, maybe we're giving a lot of higher scores because just naturally we're going to keep it to albums that on first couple listens we think is really intriguing, and so naturally we're going to like them a little more. We're not masochists. We don't just like to sit and listen to music that we hate all the time, but we're also not opposed to it. So bear with us while in the beginning of the year we get back into the swing of things and we might focus on some albums that we like. Because
we're hopeful we can get on a good schedule again.
Yes.
4 albums a week. Don't know if that's going to happen in the future, but we're going to shoot for something. All right, today, Warpaint. Second album, titled Warpaint.
Yes.
All right, that's a good, I always love self-titled records. Warpaint is an indie rock band from LA. As I said, second album. This is, Tom, how would you describe Warpaint's sound? It's very adventurous, I would say.
It is.
But it's all about the mood.
It is. It's very much about the mood, and it's interesting. It's an interesting synthesis of kind of like we've said about bands before, like, Fantagram or even like James Blake, which doesn't necessarily sound exactly like this, but just in terms of instrumental palette, you have a very nice blending of kind of traditional rock or pop instrumentation in terms of guitar, drums, bass. This definitely sounds like a rock format, but they're using it towards a completely different end.
Right.
They're using it towards something that sounds almost closer to like, I don't want to, or even like got some trip hop vibes in there.
It certainly does have trip hop vibes. I mean, you're hearing a lot of bands in the trip hop genre, but also you're hearing a lot of Radiohead influence too. There's a female vocalist. She has a very crisp, clear falsetto, and I think that it adds a lot of color to the mix because really what you're hearing, I mean, not only do you have that kind of organic sound that Tom was describing, but you also hear a lot of just subtle electronics here. There's a lot of colorful synth melodies going on, but see, none of them are like flashy. None of them are really like mixed really loud, so it's like the whole hook of the song is relying on the synth melody. It's just kind of a nice subtle layering that they're doing at all times.
And a lot of that stuff that kind of occupies the high end in the melodies and in that mood, that kind of electronic mood you're talking about, is actually very subtle.
Right.
If anything about this album is abrasive or in your face at all, it ends up being the beat and the bass.
I totally agree.
But still, it provides, and especially the way that pairs with the vocals, because the vocals are actually somewhat subtle and kind of softly presented as well. But they're very well done. They're tactfully done. And so it all comes together to create this kind of like sinister sound.
Yeah, it does.
And I really like that. It's very alluring to me.
The other thing that Warpaint's doing on this record that I actually got a huge kick out of, it was super intriguing to me on first listen and on 20th listen, as we had an extended period of time. But they really focus on creating a space on each song. I mean, listen, whether you listen to this in headphones or in your car stereo or whatnot, like you actually feel like the band is playing around you. They're doing something with the sound that's actually creating, like, it feels like there's a volume to the sound, right? And volume as in density, spatial, like, and I think that what it is that it's the drum work. On this record, while there is like these electronic textures and everything, it's as Tom said, not an electronic album. It just incorporates that as an instrument. The drums are very authentic. It's an acoustic drum set. It's played kind of low in the mix. Lots of ride cymbals and things like that. But what it does is the way they produce the drums makes it have this like airy openness to to it. It feels like you're watching this band just play to themselves in an open like auditorium at a high school or something.
And what's
like
awesome
that.
is you can tell it's totally deliberate.
Yeah,
it's
totally
not
deliberate.
an accident, and they even tell you that from the beginning with the intro track, because the intro track is just under 2 minutes. It doesn't really have vocals, but it completely sets up the sound and mood for the rest of the record.
I completely
and
agree.
especially with what you were saying about the drums, because the drums kind of come in, they stop for a sec, you actually get a little bit of like studio banter for a quick second, and then they kick back in. And that right away, the band is telling you that there is a very live performance aspect to this album.
Yeah, they really do paint the picture for you on the first track, and the fact that they opened it with an introduction and had that idea, I mean, it's craftsmanship. Yeah. That's what we look for in a solid album. And how the intro track transitions to the first big track, which is Keep It Healthy, which Tom, you and I both picked that track as our track. I think it's my favorite track on the album. You know, that track just has a really nice groove to it. It's fun to listen to. Really, the first half of the album, Keep It Healthy, Love Is to Die, you know, that has it's a repeated vocal chorus, I would say. You know, it's definitely a hook. That's probably one of the popular tracks on the album. You like the track 4, High, and we both like Biggie, track 5. I mean, this album really opens up nicely.
Yeah.
I think at some point the album kind of shifts, and I think that points, you know, track 6, Tease, is a bit of a tease. It's kind of just it's kind of a transitional track, and then you have track 7, Disco Very. Now, Tom, you like this song a bit more than I do. This song is very different than the rest of the album. Just judging by the track name, you kind of get a sense of what the sound is. There's a very, very confronting beat in this song. And they're trying to throw sounds at you that make you feel like anxiety or make you feel just uncomfortable, because they've lured you into this like state. You're in this room with these guys playing these like this band playing this awesome music, and then all of a sudden they twist everything and you're in like a kind of like dancey, dark disco. And, and it's like there's drugs all around you, guys with dreadlocks going everywhere, and you're in the middle of this, like, it's just doesn't rub me the right way because it doesn't seem to fit in. Now, I will say this, the change-up is nice because it actually it provides some separations between the front half of the album and the back half of the album.
And that's what I really liked about it, because on the first few listens to this album, a big obstacle for me was the back half, was track 8 to the end.
Totally
because by that point, the songs were, I already had so many memorable songs, I felt like the back half was doing a lot of the same things stylistically as the front half, but just not as well.
Right.
And that's a big knock against an album. Now, I ended up coming up on that because once I listened to this enough to get a sense for the individual identity of all the tracks on the last half, I liked it a lot more.
Yeah,
because I found that they did have something unique to offer. But you might not hear it right away on first listen.
They do, and they're going for something different. And the back half, I think, is much more introverted than the front half.
I totally agree.
And that kind of two sides of the album aspect is it's jarring at first, I think, but after you listen to it enough, like you kind of get it. I still prefer the front half over the back half. If I had to choose, I would always choose to choose the back half over the front half if you were going to put the quality track somewhere, but I'm not going to get into that. I think the closing track on this album is actually quite nice too.
Yeah, it is. Really nice, kind of soft.
But overall, I mean, when you look at the general instrumentation, the quality vocals, the songwriting, the mood, the album construction, I don't know if I said production yet, but there's a lot of really cool things going on at this album. There's just nothing that truly blows me away from it. Like, they don't have one track here that I just think is like, this is the best track of 2014 already. And that's one thing I would knock it. I mean, maybe scope is the only thing that I would say is a little limiting on this album.
I think for what they're doing, they nail it, but I would like to see them get even a little bit more expansive and really ambitious with it.
Yeah. What are you going to give this
I'm going 81.
I think it's a fair score. I'm just slightly under you, probably just because of Disco Very. I'm going to go 79. That brings it to an 80 from Velocities in Music. That's a very good score from us, even though it might be a B- in your grade school. We don't care about that, though. That's a good score from us. So go out. If you haven't listened to Warpaint's second record, go out, buy it, listen to it, and tell us your thoughts at www.velocitiesinmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesinmusic. As always, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and let us know what albums from 2014 you'd like to see us review on this channel. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
Love is to die, love is to not